India Energy Week 2026. Defining the future of energy together.
Important activities on day 3 which I think merit mention, and then I will open it up for discussion after that. First and foremost, I would start with something that happened actually technically on day 2, is that the Honorable Prime Minister had a round table with 27 global CEOs. I just want to do some context setting on that. The Prime Minister's meeting last night in Delhi, last evening in Delhi, was the 9th such meeting in a series. It started some years ago, even before IEW. The Prime Minister's meeting with the global CEOs was the 9th in a series. These started even before the IEW. IEW is only the 4th round. In fact, when I joined the ministry in mid-2021, we had a meeting then also, and IEW only started later. The CEOs expressed strong confidence in India's growth trajectory and conveyed their keen interest in expanding and deepening their business presence in India. Robust economic momentum, 3rd largest economy, we are on the way to getting there. The Prime Minister in his inaugural address had mentioned yesterday to the day before to the IEW that India presents a $500 billion economic opportunity, $100 billion in the E&P sector alone. Many of the CEOs mentioned not only what they have been doing in India, their companies, but also their plans for further investment, joint bids with Indian OMCs in the expanding E&P opportunities, and so on and so forth. The Prime Minister called for innovation, collaboration, and deeper partnerships, reiterating that India stands ready as a reliable and trusted partner across the entire energy value chain. Now, a little broader context setting, IEW is taking place in Goa, the 4th edition. The global CEOs roundtable was in Delhi because Prime Minister had to be also there for the India-EU free trade agreement. A few days earlier, he had hosted the President of the United Arab Emirates at a long one-on-one discussion also, apart from delegation level talks, intensifying cooperation there. As an example, I can mention that one of my colleagues, the HPCL, signed exchanged an agreement on import of natural gas from there. When I asked him about this and a previous agreement, and the IOCL chairman is busy with another meeting, if you take them all together, it adds up to about 4.5 million metric tons per annum of natural gas from the UAE alone. We have long-term agreements with Qatar. We have a 10-year agreement extension starting in 2028. We are buying more natural gas from other sources. So this is part of ongoing. I have had the privilege of interacting and hosting 3 Canadian ministers. You remember some time ago, Minister Sandhu was here. Then I had the Premier of British Columbia a few days ago, and yesterday we had Minister Hodgson here also. So Canada is also another resource-rich country which is coming up. But this is just an overall flavor and context setting. There was an India-Netherlands country session. There was an India-Netherlands country session on facilitating bilateral partnerships for the creation of the sustainable clean energy ecosystem. My colleague, Dr. Neeraj Mittal, the Secretary, chaired that. We had an India-Japan roundtable on opportunities for collaboration across the energy value chain. Again, Secretary chaired that. We had an India-Iceland roundtable on strengthening collaboration and geothermal and carbon capture. I chaired that. This follows a visit I made to Reykjavik in Iceland just a couple of months ago. We are looking at geothermal in a very big way. some opportunities were identified. I think there were 300 locations, if I remember correctly from my speaking notes. Indian PSUs such as OIL's first CCS project in Rajasthan, potential of 200 tons of carbon dioxide per day and transporting it by an 8-kilometer pipeline. All these details we'll give you as part of the briefing now. It's no point my going up. I chaired a large roundtable on the future of India-US energy partnership, which we was just a little while ago. I think we are buying about $15 billion worth of energy from the United States. We recently signed a contract for 10% of our cylinder gas of LPG from them. Then a large number of MOUs and agreements have been signed yesterday and today. I'll just read out some of them quickly, and if you want more details, my colleagues will be happily give. Indian Oil has signed an MOU with ENGIE, E-N-G-I-E, for strategic collaboration in the LNG and gas markets, strengthening its engagement across the LNG and natural gas value chain. The MOU provides a framework for Indian Oil and ENGIE to jointly explore opportunities in LNG and natural gas trading with a particular focus on the Asia Pacific. MOUs were signed among OIL, NRL, and Total Energies for collaboration to exchange LNG market knowledge, explore long-term LNG sources. HPCL and Thermax Limited signed an MOU for joint development and commercialization of clean and new energy. BPCL has signed MOUs with logistics companies DHL and Delivery to convert their diesel fleets to LNG. BPCL and Praj have signed a commercial agreement. There was a 2-day conference on CBG. I shall come to that in a minute. Some of the technology innovations which I saw, which I thought merit mention in this gathering: drilling stimulation by ONGC, AI ecosystem for data processing, identifying drilling location and accelerating field development, pipeline cleaning machinery for detection and cleaning of cross-country pipelines, stimulation and model for making bio crude from seaweed. Now, I'm very proud of that because I was the one who initiated that. Pilot project has been successful. They are now hoping that within the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be able to do commercial large-scale production of bio-crude from seaweed. And in temperate climates like ours, the seaweed grows much faster. So you could have actually an entire seaweed growing back in 4 to 6 weeks, if I remember correctly. Then non-platinum battery by IOC, indigenously developed crane for refining projects by IOC, flex fuel. I went to the SIAM, which is the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. I suggest you go there and see the vehicles on display there. Particularly the flexi fuel ones. Those are the ones which run with battery and biofuels. I mean, those are the ultimate answers. Some of the smaller ones, like I think the one by Suzuki, very moderately priced. At somebody, WagonR. What is the price? Arun? 7-8 lakhs is that one. Somebody told me this. Well, these are very. Then there are the bigger ones like the Toyota models. There is a CBG car by Maruti, flexi-fuel, strong hybrid Toyota, Hi-Cross Innova I mentioned. New high-performance fuel dispenser by BPCL. New brand of green lubricants by BPCL. There was also a dispensing station. By the way, we now have over 100,000 what you in America call the sites or retail points. And one of them is for, fueling cars like Lamborghinis and Ferraris because it has that very high-octane gas dispenser. But I mean, it's giving you the range. I just want to share something on the 2-day conference on developing the Indian CBG ecosystem. We had convened this high-level conference on 28th and 29th today. The key outcomes were presented, and based on this, my ministry will be coming up with a policy on CBG, I think, in a short time frame, which will work on and highlight the strong policy base already in place across the CBG value chain, financial assistance for biomass aggregation machinery, scheme for development of pipeline infrastructure, central financing, Gobardhan, market development assistance for FOM and LFOM and so on. On this occasion, Oil India also released a coffee table book on CBG which I did. I'm open for questions. I don't have too much of a constraint on time because we have to visit one pavilion. If it closes by 6 o'clock, then in any case, we'll have to do it tomorrow. So I want all of you to please join us for a gala dinner and a fashion show where one of India's leading designers will be displaying attire made from recycled plastic. So it's both a fashion statement and it's also a technology statement. We can open the floor up. I think the lady here had asked for the floor. Please identify yourself and. Can you just speak into the mic a little louder? Yeah.
Sir, from office like TV Guwahati, sir, the Northeast has a lot of hydrocarbon resources. Going forward, will we see any significant step as far as further exploration of hydrocarbons is concerned, or maybe drastic things happening there?
No, absolutely, absolutely. The Northeast is a priority area, and I'm looking at my friend and colleague, Mr. Rath, who is the chairman of OIL. Let me tell you, our drilling actually started in the Northeast. I don't remember whether it was 1891 or something like that. 1890. 1889, even earlier than 1891. And the first plant, and you had British supervisors, and they were telling the people who were drilling, dig, boy, dig. And it came to be known as a Dig Boy refinery. I remember a few years ago, we added, 3 million metric tons capacity. Now we have, in addition to expanding the refining capacity there and looking for more hydrocarbon, I've been in touch with the state governments. One or two issues are stuck in some differences of approach between two states. I'm hoping to resolve those. But we are on the lookout for traditional hydrocarbons, but we've gone much further. Recently, the Honorable Prime Minister inaugurated a 2G ethanol plant where the plant will make it from bamboo. And I think that's not only just an ethanol plant, but, bamboo cultivation, which is a very major activity in that part of the world, that will receive a major boost. And like in the case of seaweed, bamboo, some varieties grow very quickly, so I don't expect any feed problem. So these are some of the offhand things I can tell you, but I'll invite my colleague Mr. Rath, who, if you want to add anything on this, please do so. On kar lena.
Anyone else? Yes, please. Hello, sir. First of all, congratulations to you and ONGC for hosting this wonderful conference. I was here in 2024 and I can see a lot of changes. So, kudos to your team. So, my question is that what are the major broad takeaways from this summit and how it is going to help you in shaping future policies?
Well, let me just say that, first of all, insofar as this facility is concerned, I'm in a mood just now to give a lot of credit, because credit is really due. This facility has been constructed, Tarun, in a time of 13 months or so? 13 months. One is the conceptualization of the idea. I mean, it was 250 acres of bare land. And we had a discussion, we had an idea. They built first a submarine rescue facility, ship rescue facility here. The Honorable Prime Minister visited that, which year was it, 23? 2024. He visited that in 2024. And then we had taken a decision to build it up. So, thanks to also Engineers India Limited, our company, which is a state company, which they helped with the, the civil works, the engineering and all that. I must say that I came here 6 months ago and, I don't get excited easily and I don't get worried easily, but I was not entirely sure whether, we will be in shape to conduct an event of this scale. When IEW started, it started very modestly, but now you are expecting 70,000 participants. I was taking with the CMD of ONGC. Your footfall every day is 20,000 footfall in a day. So that, plus if you look at the exhibition space, I read out the statistics when we met day before yesterday, what, 22,500 square meters? I don't know. I don't have the figures in front of me. But it's massive. You go around. But the real advantage is not the fact that big companies are here, a lot of government people are here, but the young people you see around here, the ones who are coming here, for whose minds will open up, the technology, the students, the startups. Plus, we have clearly moved on from traditional fossil fuels to green energy. I mean, I told you we had a 2-day conference on compressed biogas, which is saying a lot, and a lot of good decisions have come from that. Then we had green hydrogen. You saw that bus on display, the drone on display. These are only small examples. I read out all the innovations I saw today in technology. Small modular reactors. And then, when somebody comes from another government and they express interest, they see this, they also are able to network with other participants. So all in all, I think it's very positive. I'm still fingers crossed because we have another day to go tomorrow. But more than that, I think this has now come to occupy a very prominent position in the global energy calendar as an institutionalized platform for interaction, discourse, business opportunity on the energy sector and different parts of the energy sector. I think that is its real strength. How do we hope to use it? Well, look, I'm not saying that the Indian energy sector is booming ahead because of us. It's moving ahead because of autonomous factor. Your consumption is growing. Your economy grew in the second quarter of fiscal 25-26 at 8.2%. The IMF has revised the rate from 6.6% to 7.3%. So something is going right. That's why you have the energy. And the mix, energy mix is changing. A lot of emphasis on natural gas, a lot of refining capacity, petchem, a whole lot of things are happening. Going forward, I think we are talking of, that's a commitment. It's both a vision and a commitment that we have to transit to developed country status by 2047, Viksit Bharat. I mean, the fact that you have gone from a $2 trillion to a $4.3 trillion or economy, or you'll be $5 trillion at this rate of growth, or $10 trillion, that's not in any doubt. But you also have to develop other segments of the economy to qualify for being called a developed country. We will be a third largest economy according to the IMF by another year or two. But the movement ahead also means that your trajectory will be determined to a very considerable extent by your energy availability. So the trilemma of availability, affordability, and sustainability, that is what is going to drive our vision.
Yes, please. Yes, madam.
Sir, I'm Shamini Sharma from News to Watch. Sir, could you please share some details from your discussions with the Canadian minister? Right now, the percentage of oil that we import from Canada is small.
No.
Energy coming from Canada.
No, you see, the Canada, I think I tried to do some context setting that it's work in progress, that I have myself No, earlier the only discussions with Canada used to be, what? I don't want to say it, we're dealing with a fringe which was derailing the whole bilateral discussion. I don't want to get into that because I have very strong views on those things. And I think it's a very sad thing if some people can derail the strength of a bilateral relation by diverting attention. So I think the new government in Canada means business and we mean business. And today we have investments. IOCL chairman is in another meeting. He has an investment there. As I mentioned, I discussed with the Premier of British Columbia. They're setting up 6 liquefaction plants. He's got an investment. If that can be utilized to extract and bring natural gas, whether it's sold elsewhere, bring it to India. You heard what the Canadian minister said? He said, referring to another very important country, his southern neighbor, he said, in crude they have 8 years reserves, I have 100 years reserve. So even if you make allowance for a little bit of here and there, it's a very resource-rich country. And they are very keen to sell energy to us. And by the way, we are diversifying our sources. I mean, Guyana, Suriname, Brazil, a lot of energy coming from the northern sources. But more than that, I think this is a great platform, and I see ONGC signing a large number of agreements with companies all over the world. It's reflecting in his market cap. He's being a little modest, but all the others are doing well. So this is not just about coming to Goa. In fact, somebody said, you're working very hard. Are you enjoying Goa? I said, well, I slept at 3 in the morning, got up at 6:30. But what is satisfying is that you find activity taking place so that the effort which, ONGC put in to set this up, all the activity, all that is actually, you see results from that.
Yes, please.
And by the way, I should have said, this is work, I didn't come to the main point. The Canadian Prime Minister is coming to India. And on the energy front, critical minerals, which is one of the major preoccupation countries around the world have, they're already talking about substantial discussions and hopefully very positive outcomes in that area.
My name is Rajgopal. I'm coming from Tamil Nadu, sir. And can you share me a few words about the future projects aligned for Tamil Nadu?
What about projects for Tamil Nadu?
They're not giving permission for the
No, I'm glad you asked the question because I'm very keen on Tamil Nadu's full potential being explored. I was, in fact, in Coimbatore and Chennai, I think just a week or 10 days ago, and they have a refinery there. So a lot of very profitable, lucrative projects are pending approval by the state government of Tamil Nadu because I think some state governments have some reservation. Maybe they're not fully familiar with the kind of benefits that flow. I know my colleague Arun had invested 1,000 crores in another state on the eastern part of the country. They spent 1,000 crores, but the permission for the petroleum mining leases were not forthcoming. And then one of my colleagues asked a lot of questions in Parliament, and I also came on strong. But ultimately, I think those approvals have now come. Look, India is resource-rich. India has both onshore and offshore facilities. Now, in the case of Tamil Nadu, sometimes I get a little worried. They ask, what's going to happen? Look, the bids will have to be evaluated from environmental clearance. And there is no question that, you see, so when we got all the clearances, then we will go forward. I don't have the precise details with me, but I've answered start questions in Parliament, and I'm sure my colleagues, Aisha, you make sure that the details are shared. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think I think everybody's quite happy. They want to go to the gala dinner, so don't stretch the press conference beyond point. Are we doing a press conference tomorrow or no? Tomorrow not necessarily, because we have the closing. But listen, guys, keep in touch. Any information on any sector of activity that took place here, I have already instructed the organizers that in real time they will make it available. Thank you very much and have a fun evening.
One more from Assam. Sir, would you in future look at holding a similar event in Assam? Now that Assam has a lot of infrastructure as well as large, huge capacity retention halls as well.
We can do some curtain raises next year
And we are
in different parts.
basically, Ranjit, please, because I may not have got the full question. She's talking about events in Assam. Similar events. Absolutely. No, what my secretary was telling me, but I wanted to be sure that that's the question. Look, we've had events in Assam. We had PM inaugurated the Numaligarh refinery with 2G. But look, the Chief Minister of Assam is a friend of mine. We collaborate. When they asked for expansion of refinery capacity, all that we agree. So let's schedule an event. We'll be doing events there. Maybe not on this scale, because, you know, last time when we did an event, I remember even there, although it has very good infrastructure in terms of hotels, it fell short. So we will do timely event, but we do it throughout the country, as my colleague was saying. It's not just one part, but Northeast has always been a priority, especially with the Modi government. You know, we have a system where all cabinet ministers visit the Northeast every month. I mean, because of other activities, you're not able to call, but the focus on the Northeast is very strong. Thank you. Thank you very much.